You've spent your career thinking about this kind of AI. Me, less so. And I look at this and I'm a bit like, why do I need AI to do something on my screen that I could just be doing myself? And it's a bit slower, right? Hello, and welcome to another episode of Deep Learning with PolyAI. I'm your host, Kylie Whitehead, and I'm joined today by PolyAI CEO Nikola Mrkšić. And today, Nikola, I want to talk about OpenAI, who's just released their first AI agent operator. An operator performs tasks for users on the web, right? So some of the examples that they've given are ordering groceries or booking travel or ordering takeout, online shopping, all these kinds of things.
Mhm.
So the first question I want to ask is what is your gut reaction to this product release?
I can't wait. And I've been playing with it. I love it. I think that coupling, this is the moment that and the thing that's always been the most exciting to me. Cause when you think about an autonomous AI, whatever it decides to do once it's reached, superhuman AGI, this is the moment where it breaks free and goes and interacts with the internet, the world, etc. And the internet is the first instance of our world that it can interact with programmatically. So it should be doing it liberally, right? And it already is in all sorts of ways through LLM applications. But I think that kind of to visualize and understand the future and explain it to a layman, someone who's not in the weeds of it, this is it, right? It will do it. It will show people how it's doing it. It's a great way to make ChatGPT a lot more useful to people and just to break new ground. And I think that also to overcome a lot of the stale stuff where you might not be able to get an API call in, but you can go and do it online the way a human would.
Yeah. I mean, you've been in this field for a long time, right? You've spent your career thinking about this kind of AI. Me, less so. And I look at this and I'm a bit like, why do I need AI to do something on my screen that I could just be doing myself? And it's a bit slower, right? Like I watched that demo and I was like, this seems like a really cool
Yeah.
technical.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but do I actually want it? I don't know.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think in the interest of just kind of explaining it to the audience here, I've got it open. They've deliberately
Yeah.
focused, Europe, I think. I don't know why the UK got hit. We're a pariah state, has not implemented the EU AI Act. So Sam, please get your act together. But I'm not lazy. The VPN is all I need. So if we tell it to book the best Georgian restaurant in NYC for tomorrow night, and we leave it to chug along, right? I think it's really good. I think, kind of getting a whole representation of what the system is doing, right? How it's doing it and how it goes about doing it. It'll take time. It's a bit slow, right? But I
Yeah.
think it's really interesting because
Yeah.
Hmm?
Sorry. In the demo they showed, in the release, the person who's using it is use OpenTable to book me a restaurant. Are you just going straight through that and telling it
I've
being
just
more
told
vocal?
it to book the best Georgian restaurant in New York for tomorrow night.
Okay.
It is currently, as you can see, on a website called eater.com. It's looking at a classical Georgian dish called hachapuri. I recommend it to everyone.
Okay.
It's like a messy, infused pizza-like thing. Still looking at dishes and reading the articles, which is awesome. And it's looking at Chama Mama at the moment, which actually is located right in front of our New York office. So, I can't claim to know every restaurant in New York, but this is uncanny. We'll see if it picks that one. There seem to be a few. Anyways, we'll let it chug along and see where it gets stuck. If it gets stuck, it's a bit slow, but this is exactly what we mean when we say agentic. Please go away and do something on my behalf, right? And
Yeah.
I think that that's a real instance of multiplying productivity, etc. And will your life be profoundly shaken because AI can now book a restaurant for you? Hell no, right? I mean, we had the first AI to AI interaction with Google Duplex back in 2020, right?
Yeah.
When their duplex system used to update Google Maps opening hours spoke to our system, and both were hilariously incompetent. They kind of got it done roughly. We have a great blog post, I think, 10 million hits. But we're now looking at this reservation here, right? It's found a Georgian restaurant called Oda House. Okay, I do not know the house. This is something in Brooklyn. It can book a table for tomorrow night at their Brooklyn location. Default reservations for 2 people at 7. Okay, so how about something close? Let's really prove the value. Closer to
I would
well, yeah,
probably
right.
Googling the Georgian restaurant, you'd have probably found something you wanted by now.
Right. I mean, the claim here is not that you will do it faster. The claim is that you
Yeah.
have to do it yourself, right? And let's really put it to the test. But I think that like this mission of grappling with RPA to do it, and like when
Yeah.
we talk about multimodality, sure, voice or text is one thing, but the ability to interact with an online interface is a whole new different form of multimodality, right? And it's currently on the PolyAI website. It is there. It is looking for address, right? And here you have to start thinking like, would you trust just anyone to do it? Like,
Yeah.
there's like you in this, right? If it can apply it well, right? I'm kind of hell bent on getting it to pick that Georgian restaurant that's across from our office. I've not been to it. I don't know if it's good. Maybe it did me a favor by picking the other one.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah,
that's like, at what point does this become life changing? Because, like, okay, this is pretty cool. I'm more skeptical. You're more excited, but ultimately, we both agree that this isn't going to change our lives. Um, at what point does it change our lives, or does it? Are we
look,
expecting to?
I think that we've already taken a pill that changes our lives forever by having LLMs reach the point where they are. The rest are like implementation details, right?
Yeah,
So does this particular moment change how I feel about, you know, the mid long term future with advanced LLMs and AGI? No, no, it doesn't. But I'm excited that they've decided to tag this on because I've spent a lot of time back
yeah,
when we even looked at buying contact center companies, right? I spent a lot of time looking at how we would do RPA for clients who do not have APIs into their backends. Right? So
yeah,
very practically, making this work well is how you would make the dream of what say UiPath, Blue Prism, the RPA companies were. Where if you could say to a client on our behalf, "I don't need your APIs. I don't need anything. I'm going to be your agent. Like I'm going to do
yeah,
the same thing as your agent." That reduces our addressable market from those companies that have undergone a lot of digital transformation to just like, hey, let me control your screen. That comes with a different set of infosec constraints and all sorts of trepidation. At the moment, the reason you couldn't put this in, um, okay, I've gone in back. Chama Mama, highly rated Georgian restaurant, is near the PolyAI office. Yes,
uh-huh.
please book. It is 2 people. So it's slow, right? On the phone here, the main issue is not like it's circumventing APIs, right? It's doing it online, and that thing happens to have a website. It would be interesting to see it call. I don't think
Yeah,
that's integrated yet, but that journey will come, right? Google Duplex has been doing that for some time now, so we know it's doable. It's just about chaining it together. The real issue here, it's a bit slow, so it's not saving me time. And if it was a contact center agent or like a virtual EA doing this for me, it
yeah,
wouldn't be good because it's very slow. But
yeah,
if you knew enough about me or just contacted me asynchronously, it would already be capable of doing it, and it would do what it just depends on the use case, but it's time to start working because by working on it, like we're gonna get to a point where it does get faster. And once it
yeah,
does, eventually it'll be faster than a human. Because when it opens the PolyAI website and looks for the address, it finds it faster than you or I could, right?
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, superhuman
So
capabilities, AGI, this is exactly what it is.
I'm really interested in this concept of circumventing APIs, right? Because so we recently did some research. We ran a survey to a bunch of CX and contact center leaders, right? And I think it's about 50%. Don't quote me on that. Look at the research when it comes out. But I think about 50% of them said that their contact center tech stack is not really in fit state to implement AI. And I think some of that is maybe a little bit of just a negative attitude and like a misunderstanding of what's possible with what. But I think you have to rely on your IT team to build out these APIs to connect AI agents to be able to do things. And so does this kind of technology that operators using, will that apply to contact centers in the future so that they can move around those APIs and do more?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that a lot of the RPA wins, implementations of UiPath and other RPA companies have exactly done that. Like It may be a back end process. And, like what we do is a lot of like front end, like people talking to you. And then, I was just changing a flight and
Yeah.
from Seattle, right? So they said, we'll be in touch in 48 hours because our system's live. We can't wait with you. And they got in touch like a day later, right? So that kind of stuff in the back end probably requires somewhere according to someone else, etc. If you join it up so that something's no longer like 77 clicks, but a
Yeah.
script that just runs programmatically, that's a lot of what say UiPath did to
Yeah.
automate that API. And now you can treat it like it's an API, like it's you know, a web
Yeah.
request you can send and get something back. But it's not. It's actually doing it the way that a human would because it may be simpler and faster and easier to implement it and follow that than to build like the underlying mechanics of the whole thing. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
I think that right now we're stuck here and it's given me full control of the thing and it's asking me to log into the website um, of this thing. So, like through that, it's accessing a widget to what looks like open table. So,
Yeah.
it's got some ways to go, right? It's not solved. And the reason I'm excited is exactly because, you know, like OpenAI publicly directing humanity towards it means that in 3 years from now, there will be 200 Y Combinator companies working on the problem. And bit by bit, they'll chirp away at it and we'll get it, right?
Yeah.
And like in all things technology, there's many ways to do many different things and they'll have their specializations and they'll get to something really good. But, I've been longing for it because the exact reason we didn't go and buy a contact center company and then, proceed with automating voice assistant part, which is something we can do very well, is that digital transformation in the back end was too much. It still is,
Yeah.
right? But choosing to make this one of the problems to work on, I think that's really good.
Yeah, that's exciting. I guess ChatGPT kind of took the front end, which is the way that PolyAI is, you know, approaching a lot of these problems, and then Operator is kind of taking the back end, and that will change how we use this kind of technology forever.
Yeah, and look, it's just explaining to people what agentic means in a very visual way,
Uh,
which I think is really, really good. And like with traditional LLMs, people now come up with a gazillion innovative ways to do it. And even if we do a fast follow and just read Reddit for 2 days, you'll find people thinking of different ways to do it. So I think it's really
Yeah.
exciting.
So we can't see the interface. You're doing this on your phone as we've been talking. We can't see the interface, but I believe that Operator tells you what it's doing at each stage, right?
It
So
is.
it opens that
Like
black
the
box.
O1 model, it has a high level of like what it's doing right now. So at the moment, if you can see, I kind of have control of the whole thing, which is a bit
Yeah.
boring. But
Yeah.
yeah, at each point it kind of like goes and just kind of like tells you what it's doing at a moment, right? So
Yeah.
I think like it's crazy that it's not available in Europe. But I woke up to a meme from a friend who probably wouldn't mind me sharing the story, but it's two Godzilla-like creatures fighting for the for AI supremacy, being US and China, and a kid playing with the thing where it's just like triangles or circles into the right kind of like um, slot in the machine and labeled as Europe. I think it's hilarious. So we'll see. We'll see where it lands, but they should make it available. I don't know how many people in Europe paid $200 a month, but they're missing out on
Yeah,
real.
that's true. Maybe there isn't like a huge reason to go through all of those hoops in the AI regulation, right? If users aren't using it.
Yeah,
I think it would be really interesting in enterprise applications as well, having that level of visibility, right? Being able to understand, like in an enterprise setting, you need to know why every single decision is being made. And when you have people making those decisions, you trust them.
yeah,
But if AI is making those decisions and you can't see how, that is, I think, where the
yeah.
real
But this is
is.
exactly where this gets interesting, right? Because it
Yeah.
has a trail. So the O1 model did reasoning, and it didn't output the full steps towards it for a myriad of reasons. But for example, I just asked um, this thing to tell me more about what's happening with Serbian student protests, where today there's a big rally in Belgrade, right? And at the moment, it is going through MSN and kind of like reading articles about it and trying
Oh,
to figure things out. So, we'll see where it gets to by the end of the podcast. But I think, one gripe that we have with AI being, everything that it should be right now is that you ask and you get that answer. I only have information with a cut of data packs. What you want it
Yeah.
to do is real time, right? Tell me different media writing. And then you have things like, I don't know, ground news, which tell you whether it's like a right wing, left wing source of information, how biased or
Yeah.
non biased. I would love to get like a summary that tells me, hey, I've read like right wing media, left wing media. I've gotten a summary where the truth looks like something like this. And here's my workflow if you want to audit.
Yes. Yes, I love that, being able to understand. Because still, when when I'm Googling stuff, I don't really know. If I don't trust, if I don't know the source and have an opinion on how that source views the world, I feel weird about the information on it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's like all the rage, right? So, I mean, what I
Yeah.
got back here is a pretty neutral statement from an article from Vulcan Insight from a few days ago. So it's still a lot better than like
Yeah.
previous ChatGPT models that would just not access more recent information. Uh, it's not, yeah, I mean, from what I'm seeing right now here, it's not really blowing me away, but it'll get there, right? I mean, you got to take the first step. So I think that's really exciting.
What do you think the general public is going to feel about it? Because I feel like seeing something, moving the mouse and doing all this stuff in front of me, it feels like something out of a spy film. And it's a bit scary.
Um, yeah, I think at this point, that's what's happening today. It's forgotten the context and it's telling me that it's National Girl Child Day in India, celebrated in India to honor girls. Um, so, like there's a ways to go. So I think what you'll get from a lot of people is probably mockery, right? And that's,
Yeah.
I think, one of my favorite kind of like people to test anything we do with is my wife, who, as we worked on a lot of these restaurant examples early on, I would give her a system and be like, hey, like this talks about restaurants, right? And while everyone found things that no one else could do, she would do a very simple thing like, hey, what kind of food? Not Indian. And you would just get
Yeah.
recommendations for Indian food, right? Because the negation and old school engram based NLP was a pretty hard thing to do. And if you didn't explicitly build for it, it just didn't work, right? So I think, here it would be very easy for us to make a video and be like, oh, look, it doesn't work. Of course it does. Because it's really, really hard to do something like this. But it got really far, right?
Yeah.
And what this means is we got to start collecting data. We got to start collecting examples. I'd bet you a lot of money that, the large annotation companies like Scale AI currently have thousands, if not tens of thousands of people working on behalf of OpenAI and doing these tasks so that they can record the right kind of information that the next version of the model can be trained on, right? But
Yeah.
what we're doing now as consumers, paying them $200 a month, is providing that data as well. And sure, it's getting stuck, but it's telling them where to look. And if
Yeah.
enough people get stuck looking for a restaurant near the office, well, then you can bet that there's 10,000 people, annotators getting similar tasks and going through it themselves. Right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think then, over time we'll get there. So, the general public, I don't know. I mean, I think your viewpoint of kind of like, mild intrusion, slight discomfort, we have maybe slightly different worldviews, although you are, a very long tenured head of content for a leading AI company. So I'm not sure you'd qualify in the eyes of Luddites when they come for us as someone who's
Yeah.
on
I
the
think
side.
I'm much more open probably than, many people. But I
Well,
still
do you remember when we did like initial guerrilla testing of our systems, right? I distinctly remember a woman in central London telling me that she doesn't want to feed AI. I was like, hey, we're testing
yeah.
our system. And most people were like, haha, let me see. And, worked or not, people were like, oh, it was good, or sounds like like Terminator, whatever. This one was adamant. I'm not helping you bring about our demise, right? And hell, she may be right. I don't know, right? Maybe we are, completely unwitting participants and all that. I don't think so. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't think at that point, intent-based system, helping you book a restaurant table was too life-threatening for anybody.
But
But I think
our future generative overlords may look at us as fond builders of the antiquated version of its ancestor, the Neanderthal version of our current agentic LLM-powered applications, right?
yeah, okay, well, depending on what the future looks like, we'll either take that, as a compliment or we'll deny it
Or
wildly.
evident. Yeah.
I think what I got out of this conversation is that for me, I saw this release and I thought, yeah, whatever, who needs this? I'm kind of sneery. You know what I'm like anyway. That's kind of my
Yep,
personality.
yep.
I'm always a bit, suspicious, I
Healthy
guess. I think
dose of British cynicism.
exactly.
Yep, yep.
But I guess what you said that has, I think is the real takeaway of this episode is like this is a new way of doing things. This is going to open so many doors for the way that we are able to think about conversational systems and agentic systems in particular. And yeah, at the moment, maybe most of us don't need to see a cursor moving around on the screen on its own to book us a restaurant when it takes much longer than it would do to do ourselves. But what could that look like in the future? It could look like a lot of things that really do create value. And I think that I admire your excitement about it. Um, because I think, yeah, there's probably a lot more that can be done.
No, no, there will be a lot, right? And if you just like, you know, look at Reddit right now, I'm just looking at, people look at like different like real world tasks, then it's interesting, right? Like we can probably do a fast
Yeah.
forward and we see um, what happens. I think the main negative commentary right now is just about it being slow. That's
Yeah.
that's that will be solved quick, right?
That, yeah.
I mean, if we look at the Stargate announcement and stuff, like, hey, go build those data centers, please. You know, I think around the world, nations are mobilizing for unbelievable resources in this. So stay put, give it a year or two. We'll get there fast.
Yep. Well, let's catch up again in a few months and see where this has gone.
Sounds like a plan.
Cool. Thanks so much for joining me, Nicola, and thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next time.